So we got a new D.Gray Man chapter. And yes, it is a short chapter. It is a point 0.5. So it's 253.5. So it's not like necessarily a new chapter, but it's something. Give me this. Okay, so just gonna put this out here. Want to get this video out relatively soon, but I'm busy with work and everything. So the background's realistically just gonna be the thumbnail. So just probably listen to this in the background or scroll on your phone or wherever you are listening to this because the background's not gonna be changing. Anyways, into the chapter, I guess. It's a relatively short one. It does pick up somewhere near what we did in the previous chapter as it addresses both both Lavies actually, and kind of Alan in the spear. So the chapter's named Silvery Memories, and we get to see Lavi on the front cover. And it's been a while since we've seen Lavi, so that is like a nice thing to see, and I hope Lavi does come back into the story soon. Like I said, the last thing we've seen with Lavi is he was being held captive with Bookman by the Noah to learn about the 14th, but they just learned about the 14th on their own, and we don't see them when they captured Apocryphus. So it begs the question, what are they going to do with Bookman and Bookman Jr., aka current Lavi? So we don't get those answers in this chapter, but we do get to see like kind of a fateful reunion between Lavi and Alan, not in the present day, but back from chapter 27. We get more perspective on what's going on with that. So the chapter kind of starts off where we were, and it's Alan inside the spear. He's just kind of like looking around. This, for me, it's kind of tough to tell whether this is Alan talking or it's the current Lavi talking. For sake of convenience here, because this is going to be annoying for the rest of the chapter, I'm going to just call the current Lavi Lavi and call Bookman Jr. Lavi as Bookman Jr. So there we go. Anyways, it sounds like it is Lavi talking, where right now you have to remember that Alan and Bookman Jr. and the Innocents and Naya are all like intertwined in a massive ball of helix energy. So much so that like Apocryphus has never seen this much helix energy before. And I'm prefacing this right now because we're about to see like kind of a insane feat from Bookman Jr. within the sphere, where it sounds like Lavi is kind of talking, and Lavi's like, "It's dark here." Because we find out that Lavi in his early days as Bookman Jr., which this takes place roughly 11 years ago when this occurs. So Alan at this point has been in the sphere for nearly 12 and a half years because a year and a half passes, or a little over a year passes before Lavi is born as a new Bookman. And also Lavi is now 18. So this is happening to Lavi when he's roughly 7. And Alan probably gets out of the spear then to match up. I believe when he's red, he's maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9. So Alan's in the spear for a little bit longer, sadly. But so weirdly enough, we see Alan in here, but it's Bookman Jr. who's talking. We see Lavi kind of saying that it's dark and it's cold because he's dying. He's like taken a bullet wound, and he's kind of seeing, I guess, the white light. And Bookman Jr. is like, no, you can't come here. He somehow pops out of the helix energy sphere, which is what I'm calling it. I don't know what anyone else is calling it, but I feel like what else can you call it? To appear before Lavi. And in this sphere, when he leaves the sphere, only Lavi, the current Lavi, this is annoying already, the current Lavi can see him. Everything else around them has stopped. He's seemingly stopped time for everybody except for Lavi and Bookman Jr. Now, this, who's to say if this is Bookman Jr.'s ghost, or if he hasn't fully been absorbed into the current model of Alan. But we do know that Innocence has the ability to make phenomenon become reality. The biggest example of this is Miranda, where her clock Innocence allows her to revert time while it's activated on any target she chooses. Obviously, it's to limitations, like she can't rewind someone to be unborn, but she can rewind like injuries and everything along those lines. And you look at Alan's sword in Crown Clown, where he's able to literally slash concepts that he believes to be evil, which are the Noah and Akuma. Who's to say if later on he can change that concept, or if it might be Noah and Akuma because it's used through innocence, and innocence views those as the evil concepts of the world. Once again, I feel like that's going a little deeper into this, but it's to imply that we learned in 2 chapters ago that the thing that causes helix energy, it might have actually been last chapter. I'm just gonna quickly check that. Yeah, it was the last chapter. It's been a while, and both chapters kind of came out back to back, so I apologize for those missed timings there. But essentially, we learned that innocence users are people who are toyed with by fate, and thus have large amounts of helix energy to then allow these pieces of innocence to steal and send back to the heart, strengthening the heart. So inherently now we have this spear of energy that's so great that it even prevents Apocalypse from controlling normal innocence, the one that eventually forms with Alan. So once again, we can make the argument that if you have enough helix energy, you can potentially make these phenomenon occur on your own. Now, once again, you have to wait for that to be confirmed, but I feel like that's where my mind is going with how to explain what is going on here. And Bookman Jr. doesn't do anything too crazy here, because obviously Bookman's frozen, so Bookman never realizes he's there, or he technically never was there corporally. But he could have still been there, and he essentially like tells Lavi, damn it, he called Lavi Bookman Jr. Later in the chapter, so it's also confused there, where he's like, breathe slowly, you'll survive through this, just keep breathing. And current Lavi just sees him as like a ball, or like sees him by his silver hair. That's like his key characteristic that Lavi is kind of attaching to. He's like all this pain and all the attributes that he's really worried about. And he can only really see Bookman Jr. because of how injured he is. I don't think it's like he can only see the silver hair. He sees him like more in form, and we see later in the chapter why that is important. But we see that like because of this, that's like the main attribute he's taking away from him. Naturally, he kind of gets a bit of his appearance as well. And this is important because the whole thing ends here where he survives that naturally. But we jump ahead to where chapter 27, where Lavi meets Alan for the first time in the story. And we recreate that scene now, where in that chapter, Lavi smiles before he interacts. But in this chapter, we actually see him more startled as he sees like Bookman Jr.'s appearance in Alan. And Alan looks like a lot different in this chapter comparatively to how he looked then, and naturally does their interaction where he's like, "Oh, I'm Lavi, nice to meet you," and then he's like, "My pleasure," and it was a fateful reunion, which is, as I might have forgotten to mention a second ago, is he's like, "Will we ever meet again?" And he says, "We will definitely meet somewhere down the road." So this is the somewhere down the road that he was referring to. Now, this chapter is short and sweet. It kind of implies how important Lavi and Alan's relationship is. It also kind of implies that Lavi is going to be fully melded into this new Alan, or I guess the Alan we know, because the appearance is matching, as well as like the fact that Lavi is able to recognize him that way. It also makes it so that Alan is essentially the Ichigo of D.Gray Man. He has a piece of literally every important species, or I don't know, or classification you have it. He has innocence itself in the Helix Spear. He's a bookman who we learn now you have to be born into being a bookman. It's not bookman can only choose someone who's worthy. It's you're kind of destined into it. So some of those perks might exist there. I also imagine whenever Alan gets out of the memory spear, that the memory bug that he ate or nut that potentially kills him, maybe Lavi or Bookman Jr. within him will take that hit for him. I don't know. I have to imagine. I don't think it's going to just simply be, oh, we were testing your resolve. Were you actually willing to unalive yourself for answers? And now that you did, we know we can trust you, and you'll tell us what we need to know about what happened to Bookman Jr. So who's to say on that? But so he has Bookman DNA, Innocence DNA, Noah, and like a bunch of Helix energy, as well as like Alan, which is just an extra piece, I guess, but the key piece in the story. All this to say, it's kind of like what shows like the importance of like the bond between Lavi and Alan, and even shows like it's potentially something that is beyond like a single generation. You know, friendships can last more than one lifetime, if anyone who's seen Avatar knows. So once again, this was a relatively short chapter. I do have like some just theories about this, but we'll have to wait and see. I wonder if we will be getting chapter 254 soon because of this chapter, or if this was just a small little, like, here's a bit extra that does get you a little context and potentially helps you answer some questions. We'll have to see on what percentage of Alan is Alan when this is all done, or if Apocryphus ends up waiting the full period of time before Alan is free and makes him go near Mana, which is how the whole Mana Red backstory occurs. Once again, we don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see it. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below, and if you want me to talk more about Helix energy and like the theories I have attached to that, I'd be happy to do that too, and let me know. Okay, bye.